Welcome back to another photo review video. I want to thank you all for sending images because a lot of people can learn a lot about not only photography, but also stock photography, how to make photos that sell. So with that in mind, remember this is not personal. I'm just trying to guide you and help you understand a little bit more about photography, composition, how to process the images, and then also finding images that sell. So let's start with the first photo, which is this barn. I remember talking to the photographer, you look at the barn here and it doesn't have unknown camera, unknown lens. This was a screenshot and you can see that there's not a lot of details. So let's go down the list. So camera settings, I don't have any of those details, so we're gonna skip those. When it comes to composition, it's an old barn. It looks like the horizon is tilted, but that could just be the barn leaning. The trees look straight, the barn is right in the middle, and the fence is right here blocking the way. I like to find lines to direct the view across the image. This is just a barn in the center. It looks more like a snapshot than a stock photo. There's no negative space for text or anything like that. So I'm gonna say 3 out of 5 when it comes to composition. When it comes to processing, I'm also gonna say 3 out of 5. It needs a little bit more contrast to make it pop. And I think contrast, maybe a vignette to really make it look good. I think that would help. This looks just very light, very, I don't know, it's missing a little bit of pop in color. And then as far as the commercial value, sellability, this is very low. I'm gonna say 2 out of 5 stars because it is missing a concept. It's just a picture of a barn, so that's not really gonna do well in stock. Next photo. All right, the next photo is this beautiful flower. Let's look at the camera settings. ISO 800 of f7.1, 1/160th of a second. It's a little noisy. You'll see here in the middle, that's the digital noise from the ISO 800. It's a Nikon D3400, so it's an entry-level camera. It doesn't have the high ISO. That bird is competing with me. So as far as camera settings, I'm sure there's wind and stuff. I'm gonna say 4 out of 5. Because of the wind, you can cut down the ISO to 400 and you cut the shutter speed to 1/80th. You will still have f7.1, which you kind of need to get that depth to get everything sharp like this. So 4 out of 5 in the camera settings. As far as composition, it's in the middle. If you're shooting for stock, put it to the side. It looks like you have a really cool background here. I like this bud here. It needs a little bit of help with the composition because right in the middle is gonna be a tough sell for stock. So what did I say? 3 out of 5 in the composition, 4 out of 5 because it's just moving it to the side. And when it comes to the processing, you need noise reduction, you need a little bit more color, more contrast, something to really make it pop. So I'm gonna say 3 out of 5. A little vignette just to really help it draw the eye to the brightest part of the image. And as far as commercial value, it's a flower. There's millions of flowers like this out there. I'm gonna say 2 out of 5. Next. The next photo looks like another flower. Let's look at the camera settings here. This is the same settings, 1/60th of a second, 7.1 aperture, and ISO of 800. This one, again, like when you're shooting a person, you want the eyes to be in focus. I know they were trying to focus here in the water, but it also looks a little blurred. That could have been the wind or just missed the focus slightly. The water drops, you can see that they don't have a lot of detail. So this, I'm gonna say, was due to camera settings. Focus is another camera settings and then missed here. So I'm gonna say 3 out of 5. Composition, same thing I said before. You want some negative space. You want it away from the center. Rule of thirds, leading towards it. If you turn the leaf a little bit, you'll get a little bit more depth. If you turn the flower slightly or turn the camera so you're shooting into the flower, you get a little bit more depth. And right now you're missing a lot of detail, especially with the high ISO. So composition, 3 out of 5. As far as the edit, the same thing I said before, 3 out of 5. It needs some color, it needs some contrast, something to really make the flower stand out, especially in a grid if you're thinking stock. I don't think this is gonna get accepted because it doesn't have to focus. And then when it comes to commercial value, 2 out of 5 because it's the same thing. It's just a flower and there's millions of flowers. But it's a nice photo. Next. The next photo, we got a young woman here, ISO 180. 5.6, 1/125th of a second. A beautiful shot. The lighting is perfect. You got lines that lead to the back, so that's a great shot. As far as the camera settings, it looks great. Focus is on her eyes. It looks beautiful. The lighting, everything is perfect. So 5 out of 5. As far as the composition, you got the frame, you got the door in the background that leads away, so that looks good. I'm gonna say 5 out of 5. Her eyes are in the upper third. 4 out of 5. If you move her a little bit to the left so she's not right at the opening, I think it would have done a little bit better, but it is a great shot. So let's go 4 out of 5 just because I am looking for things to critique. So if I didn't say anything, then there wouldn't be a critique. As far as the edit, it looks very natural. The colors look great, the natural skin tones, the colors on the leaf look great, so that's perfect. I'm gonna say 5 out of 5. And commercial value, that's tough because she's not really doing anything, she's posing. This is a great portrait, but it's not really a stock photo because there's not a lot of concept. If she was holding a colorful drink with umbrellas and fruity stuff and flowers, I think that would be more of a travel photo. But just like this, I'm sure it would sell, but I don't see it selling a lot. So I'm gonna say 3 out of 5 when it comes to commercial value because we're just missing the concept. Great shot, you're doing awesome. All right, next, I think it's the same girl. This is better composition, I like it. As far as the camera settings, what do we got here? 1/125th of a second at 5.6 ISO 100. That's great, it's a 55 millimeter, so you're wide open at 5.6. ISO 100, that looks good. It looks like it missed focus a little bit. It doesn't look as sharp and crisp as it should be. So I'm gonna say 4 out of 5. That's probably 1/25th of a second if you moved or she moved. Nice try, but I'm gonna say 4 out of 5. It could have been the focus or motion blur from 1/125th of a second. When it comes to the composition, this is better. She's on the third. I'm not so happy here with the opening, with the building in the back, because it's bright, so your eye goes there. But I'm gonna say 4 out of 5, and that's just because, you know, that and the trees coming out from behind her head. It's probably a tough spot. Maybe just move a little bit to block the house, and maybe put her on the other side of the palm tree. But you're doing great. The lines here, the pole kind of finishes the frame. So 4 out of 5 in the composition. Edit, 5 out of 5. The tones look great. The color, the natural skin tones, great. Maybe a little bit more contrast, but that's just my preference. So 5 out of 5. And as far as commercial value, the same thing I said before. 2 out of 5 because we're missing the travel. We don't know. There's not enough context to see what's happening. And it's just a great portrait, but it's not really a stock photo. Great job. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, the next photo looks to be the same model. Let's look at the camera settings, same camera. 1/125th f5.6 ISO 100. Again, it looks blurred. You look at her eyelashes and they look blurred. So I'm gonna say 4 out of 5. The photo is not gonna get accepted for stock because it's blurry. But 4 out of 5 in the camera settings, that could be your shutter speed. I think it's your shutter speed because nothing is really sharp. So it didn't really focus anywhere else. It's just a little bit of motion blur. As far as composition, I don't like the elements in background. They're a little distracting. Maybe a better zoom like that would be simpler. A simple, you know, less is more kind of thing. This one I'm going to say 3 out of 5 because she's also right in the middle. And then when we talk about the processing, I don't know if she had a flash or just fill light, but I'm gonna say 3 out of 5. This one doesn't look as natural. It looks good, but the background in her, like there's added light in it. It's obvious. Usually you want that to be a little bit more subdued, so it doesn't pop so much, and a little bit of contrast would help also. So 3 out of 5 in the processing. And as far as commercial value, I'm gonna go back to 2 out of 5 because there's really not much context and we don't know what's happening here to be a sellable image. But great job, you're doing really good. Just pay attention to your limits hand holding a camera, and also the speed of the models and whether they're moving, or just set it on continuous shooting so you can get 3 or 4 pictures in a second and maybe one of them will be sharp. All right, next photo. All right, so now here we got the next photo. This is a beautiful road with the car. It looks great. Let's look at the camera settings. There's no camera settings. It looks good. The car looks like, oh, it missed focus. All right, 4 out of 5 because you missed focus. It focused out here in the grass. You can see that's a lot of detail in the car. It doesn't have that. As far as composition, I like that the car is in the third in the bottom half. I would have liked to seen it without the sky, so maybe a closer zoom or a crop. That to me looks a lot better. So I'm gonna say 4 out of 5 in the composition. We don't have camera settings, so don't worry about those. When it comes to the process, it looks good. Maybe a little bit more contrast. Even if we lose some of the greens out there, I think it would look better with a little bit more pop. And as far as commercial value, I mean, it's good. Travel, driving through, if it's a famous road, or if there's, sorry to say, but if there's accidents in that road, it would be a sellable image. Think about doing something like this with a UPS truck, with a FedEx vehicle, a camper. That would give you a lot more sellability and commercial value. So in this case, I'm gonna say 3 out of 5 because, well, it's not gonna get accepted, but if it was sharp, I would say it would be a really good stock photo. So 3 out of 5 and 1 commercial value. Next. This looks beautiful. It's another flower. I don't know what type of flower it is because I'm not very well versed. It is ISO 200 f2.5 at 4,000 of a second. Okay, so there's some issues here. Camera settings, I'm going to say the 4 out of 5 because you could still do 2,000 of a second at ISO 100. And then you can see some noise, and I don't know if that was recovered digitally, if it was too dark and it was brightened. When it comes to composition, it's right in the middle, but this is more of an artistic shot with the light. That looks great. So I'm gonna say 5 out of 5 in this composition because we're really just making it about the flower. A square crop would have been very nice too, but as it is, it looks beautiful. The processing, I don't know if that is just added texture or something. It doesn't look that great. I'm gonna say 3 out of 5. It could use a little bit of noise reduction, but then maybe we would lose the detail. Something's going on, and I'm not sure if it was just added texture or something. And then when it comes to the sellability, the commercial value, this is fairly low. I'm gonna say 2 out of 5 because it is a flower and there's millions of photos like this. This is beautiful, but the commercial value is fairly low. And my camera is blinking, so I need to go get another battery. I'll be right back. All right, the next photo looks like another barn. Let me look at camera settings, which I don't have. The photo's not gonna get accepted. It's missing a lot of detail, so let's just look at the camera settings. 0 out of 5 because I don't have them. As far as the composition, I like the light coming through the barn window. It looks good, but there's a lot of, it's just right in the middle. There's no leading lines. There's just not a lot happening. I'm gonna say 3 out of 5. You're cutting the tree here. There's nothing in the sky really. There's maybe a closer zoom. I'm not sure. It's a tough image because it just looks like a snapshot, not like a art shot or a commercial image. It just, as far as the edits, I'm gonna say 3 out of 5. There's lots of noise. There's other colors here that shouldn't be there, and there's not a lot of detail. So 3 out of 5. And as far as commercial value, I'm gonna say 2 out of 5. I want to say 1 out of 5, but I won't. 2 out of 5. Because there is a need for images like this. It's just not sharp, it's not clear. Old barns like this have been shot before, so it's a lower on the scale. But I've sold similar images. They just have to be sharp and with good focus and good processing. So 2 out of 5 in commercial value. Next. All right, the next photo, this is train tracks going down the road, sunset, starburst. It looks pretty good. Let's look at the camera settings. Oh, I don't have the camera settings. I can see a lot of dust in the lens here, or the sensor. So you need to get your sensor cleaned. As far as the composition, this is better. Straight line here, another line here. That's kind of a frame. Very simple, but very good composition. I'm gonna say 4 out of 5. And only because that could have been brought down or up a little more, showing more of the lines or more of the sky. I think I would have improved the image. So 4 out of 5 in the composition. As far as the edit, it needs a little bit of contrast, a little bit more oomph. I'm gonna say also 4 out of 5. And as far as commercial value, images like this, I have a few and they don't sell. So I'm gonna say 2 out of 5. They might sell here and there. In my experience, they don't usually sell that well. So good job. Just really clean your sensor because there's a lot of spots in that thing. You get one of those little blowy thingies that you could just blow the sensor dust away or clean the lens, but I'm pretty sure that's sensor. Next. All right, now the next photo, this is from, I think I did one some of yours last week. The beautiful shot. These are very artistic. It looks great. Let me look at the camera settings. 1/160th of a second, f3.5, ISO 200. Focus is on. It looks good. Camera settings, I'm gonna say 5 out of 5. 4 out of 5 because that could be ISO 200 at an 80th of a second if you had a tripod, which I don't know, it's kind of hard when you're looking at details like this. 5 out of 5, I'm not going to be like that. It looks good as far as the composition for stock. It's not so great. It's right in the middle. As an artistic photo, it looks great. So I'm going to say 4 out of 5 in the composition. Right in the middle like this is fine, and it's framed by the green, which draws your eye to the brightest part, which is that dried, whatever that thing is there, curling up like that. It looks good. And it also kind of looks like a heart too. As far as the processing, it looks good. I like the muted tones. The green looks good. 5 out of 5 in the processing. And as far as commercial value, it's very low. I've submitted images like this. Sometimes they don't even get accepted. And then when they do, they're never sold. So I'm going to say 2 out of 5 when it comes to the commercial value. Is that it? Yep, that was the last photo of the day, guys. I hope this helped you understand a little bit more about not just photography, the commercial value, and what sells and what doesn't for stock, and how to make images that are really going to bring you a little bit more income. If you really want to learn more about commercial value, I made a video on Sunday, which I filmed about an hour ago. So I'm going to put that link right here. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next video. Bye.